Hello everyone and welcome to another ITC How to Play video. Today we look at mission number 4. Let's dive right in.
The Dark King.
Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast ITC video. I'm Skari, your grateful host, and if you've been following the series that I have been doing on the channel, it has been about how to play the ITC Champions missions from start to finish. We began with the pre-game and some basic information, and over the course of every week, I've been releasing 2 videos on each mission. Today we look at mission 4, What is Yours is Mine. It's one of my favorite missions for 2 reasons. Number 1, it usually happens on day 2. So you're fresh, ready to go, you're either on a winning streak or, you're in the fun bracket. In which case you can kind of relax and enjoy the second or, the next part of the tournament in a more relaxed tone. However, if you're going for the win, it provides you with an excellent chance at showing off your tactical prowess with player-placed objectives as well as other factors of board control that are very important in this mission. In this first part of the video series for mission 4, we'll take a look at the basics, we'll go over the mission parameters, how to score it, and a couple of do's and don'ts with the mission itself. In part 2, which you'll be able to find on the Patreon page, like the other part 2s of this series, I go over in-depth tactical analysis of each deployment style based on how you place objectives, attacker, defender options, that sort of thing as well. And here we go. Let's look at this mission. So what's yours is mine. Make sure you follow the pre-game stuff before you kind of do the rest of the stuff here. Objective 1, there are 5 different objectives in this mission, so it's an odd number of objectives. It's placed in the middle of the table. And then they are player-placed objectives. Starting with the defender, each player places 1 objective anywhere on the table, more than 6 inches from a table edge and 12 inches from another objective. Each player then places 1 objective in their own deployment zone, in their opponent's deployment zone, more than 6 inches from a table edge and 12 inches from another objective. So, what does this mean? This means that 1 is right in the middle of the board, and then the defender gets to put 1 first, and they can be anywhere on the table. So it can be in their own deployment zone, if they want to. It can be outside of the deployment zone. It can be near the middle. It can be in your opponent's deployment zone, if you wanted to. It can be a no man's land. Then your opponent, or the attacker, gets to put 1 down. Now this can be in their deployment zone. It can be 12 inches away from the objective you placed, though the defender placed first. It can be 12 inches away from the middle objective. It can be in their opponent's deployment zone, and theirs. It can be anywhere on the table, keeping to those parameters. Then the defender has to put 1 objective in their opponent's deployment zone, and then the attacker puts 1 objective in the defender's deployment zone. This leads to some really interesting tactical tidbits when it comes to this mission, because a lot of people instinctively will go, well, I'm going to put 1 in my deployment zone as the defender. Then the attacker goes, well, I'm going to put 1 in my deployment zone as the attacker. And then the defender has to put 1 in the attacker's deployment zone, and then the attacker has to put 1 in the defender's deployment zone. Then each player gets 2 objectives in the deployment zone and 1 in the middle. Now this would be the even way of doing things. However, a keen tactical mind will try and get the objective placement in a position that will benefit their army. So knowing that depending on what you roll for deployments and all that stuff first before you place the objectives down, right? But knowing that you're the defender and knowing what deployment style it is, and knowing if the opponent's going first, you can really mess with your opponent's objective placement. You can be like, I'm going to put it right here in the middle, which means that when you put 1 in my deployment zone, you can't put it in this area. You have to put it in this area of my deployment zone. So it forces your opponent to put it in a beneficial position, a more beneficial position in your deployment zone, for example. The second aspect is if you are a very aggressive army that doesn't want to be in your own deployment zone, you could potentially as a defender even, put the objective in your opponent's deployment zone. Then they put an objective in their deployment zone. Then you put a third objective in their deployment zone. And then they put one in your deployment zone. But you just keep a token force back and rush their objective for a late game grab where you put pressure on all the objectives that are nice and clumped in one spot. Risky proposition. However, it can be something that can be very beneficial for armies that are very aggressive. Personally, I've had that happen to me when I played a knight army. And I put my objective in my deployment zone, and then he went ahead and placed his objective 12 inches away from mine, really close and into the middle. And then I knew I had been trapped because he had created a bubble of objectives with the middle, my objective, and the objective he had placed where he could literally run 1 or 2 knights. This was back when knights were still really big in the meta, and could control 3 of the objectives with 1 or 2 models, whereas I wanted to have the board spread out, and the objective placement played right into his hands. So, objective placement is very important in this mission. It's an art form that sadly I find has been lost in a lot of events that have like set objective placement, or don't really have different things. It's about trying to gain an advantage before the game even starts, which can be a little frustrating. I'm sure you've been up there being like, well, he put all the objectives in a big bubble and then I couldn't get to them. But that is part of the process. And I like that personally. But leave a comment. Do you agree or disagree with player-placed objectives? Now, the bonus in this one is interesting. If a player controls both the objectives they placed on the table, at the end of their player turn, they gain 1 point. So if you control the one you put in your opponent's deployment zone plus the one that you put down originally, then you will get you will get a point. Now, I love this as an attacker because, especially with a very fast army or an army that puts a lot of pressure in the middle of the board, like if I'm running Grotesques or Talos, or if you're running Bulgrin or whatnot, I know I have to put one objective in my opponent's deployment zone. So if they go ahead and put their objective as a defender in their deployment zone off to like a flank or something, then I can look at the table, depending on where terrain is, and put the objective I'm going to place sort of like halfway up the middle, far away from their objective, but like a movement away from my deployment zone. And then when they put their objective down, the second one, they have to put it in my deployment zone, which they'll probably put on the other side of the table, which I can, hold or whatever, but they're trying to get their bonus. And then I put mine in their deployment zone, but I've been able to put my objective closer. So I don't need to go very far to get the bonus and get 2 objectives. And then holding these 2 allows me to put pressure on the middle of the table over here, which then gives me that 3rd objective if I need it for something or to hold more later in the game. So those are things to think about. Now, of course, all ITC missions have the same 42 available points. You get a point for killing something, you get a point for holding something, you get a point if you score the bonus every turn, and then every battle round, the player who killed more things gets an additional point, and the player who holds more things gets an additional point, which does give a big advantage to the person going second, as they get to control a lot of those factors in the game. So that was our look at the mission itself. Thanks a lot for watching part 1 of mission number 4. We've been releasing this set every week, so make sure you click that subscribe button and the notification bell so the next time a video releases, you are notified and you don't miss it. A huge shout out to all the channel Patreons, without whose support this would not be possible. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll be back on the next video. After all, I'm Skari, your grateful host, signing off until next time. Skari out. Bye.